Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another of your spooky sessions with me, your host, Heather Gold. Now, before I begin this video, I just want to say this. We are living in uncertain times. This coronavirus or COVID-19 is striking everybody. Within reason, it's not touching young adults or children. It's targeting people who are elderly, who have low immune systems, people who possibly are pregnant. You know, the overriding message is no matter who it's may touch, we need to start. This is the time where we start actually putting into practice that we preach, which is be loving to one another, be kind to one another, share what you have. If you can go out and even leave a basket of shopping for a neighbour and they put the money in an envelope for you, it can't be passed on by touch. So if you could do something for someone, even if they haven't got the money to hand, you could just do them that little favour of getting them in some whatever shopping that you can find, then, please do that. Please consider doing that. Lift the phone, knock on a door, then go and stand at the bottom of the path and ask them, are you okay? Is there anything I can do? And also, please don't hoard things. There are people hoarding baby milk. Baby milk is for babies. Please don't hoard it so you can make yourself a drink of tea or coffee. That's not what it's for. It's unfair. And please don't hoard bread or toilet roll or things like that. When all of this is over, instead of being, well, I'm all right, Jack, and people find out that you hoarded things, they're not going to feel the same way about you ever again. And if you have a conscience, I would start letting it bother you now, not at the end when everyone's in the clear. Because your conscience should prick you for all the hoarding that you've done. We are in this together. And we should be looking out for each other. Now, I'm not a Christian, I'm Jewish. But I will use the words of Jesus. Love one another as you would love yourself. And on that note, I'll now return to your video. Now, tonight I've got a short ghost story for you. I managed to find one that was written in 1901 and a little bit sort of more old-fashioned in the language, but that's how things were then. And then I have episode 9 of I Made a Deal with an Angel by the writer Zithero. So, on saying all of that, I'll now plug ahead with reading the stories to you. Please sit back and relax and put your feet up while I read to you the very first story, which is called At Old Man Eckert's. And I really do hope that you enjoy it. Philip Eckhert lived for many years in an old, weather-stained wooden house about 3 miles from the little town of Marion in Vermont. There must be quite a number of persons living who remember him, not unkindly, I trust, and many know something of the story that I am about to tell. Old Man Eckhert, as he was always called, was not of a sociable disposition and lived alone. As he was never known to speak of his own affairs, nobody thereabout knew anything of his past, nor of his relatives if he had any. Without being particularly ungracious or repellent in manner of speech, he managed somehow to be immune to impertinent curiosity, yet exempt from the evil repute of which it as commonly revenges itself when baffled. So far as I know, Mr. Eckert's renown as a reformed assassin or a retired pirate of the Spanish Main had not reached any ear in Marion. He got his living cultivating a small and not very fertile farm. One day he disappeared, and a prolonged search by his neighbours failed to turn him up or throw any light upon his whereabouts or whyabouts. Nothing indicated preparation to leave. All was as he might have left it to go to the spring for a bucket of water. Nothing indicated preparation to leave. All that he might have left to go was maybe for, anything that he may have needed to hand. For a few weeks, little else was talked about in the region. That old Man Eckhert became a village tale for the ear of the stranger. I do not know what was done regarding his property. The correct thing, doubtless. The house was standing, still vacant and conspicuously unfit, when I last heard of it, some 20 years afterwards. Of course it came to be considered haunted, and the customary tales were told of moving lights, dolorous sounds, and startling apparitions. At one time, about 5 years after the disappearance, these stories of the supernatural became so rife, or through some attesting circumstances seemed so important, that some of Marion's most serious citizens deemed it well to investigate, and to that end arranged for a night session on the premises. The parties to this understanding were John Holcomb, an apothecary, Wilson Merle, a lawyer, and Andrus C. Palmer, the teacher of the public school, all men of consequence and repute. They were to meet at Holcomb's house at 8 o'clock in the evening of the appointed day and go together to the scene of their vigil, where certain arrangements for their comfort, a provision of fuel and the like, for the season was winter, had been already made. Palmer did not keep the engagement, and after waiting half an hour for him, the others went to the Eckhert house without him. They established themselves in the principal room before a glowing fire, and without other light than it gave, awaited events. It had been agreed to speak as little as possible. They did not even renew the exchange of views regarding the defection of Palmer, which had occupied their minds on the way. Probably an hour had passed without incident, when they heard, not without emotion doubtless, the sound of an opening door in the rear of the house, followed by footfalls in the room adjoining that in which they sat. The watchers rose to their feet, but stood firm, prepared for whatever might ensue. A long silence followed, how long neither would afterward undertake to say. Then the door between the two rooms opened, and a man entered. It was Palmer. He was pale, as if from excitement, as pale as the others felt themselves to be. His manner, too, was singularly distrait. He neither responded to their salutations, nor so much as looked at them, but walked slowly across the room in the light of the failing fire, and opening the front door, passed out into the darkness. It seems to have been the first thought of both men that Palmer was suffering from fright, that something seen, heard, or imagined in the back room had deprived him of his senses. Acting in the same friendly impulse, both ran after him through the open door, but neither they nor anyone ever again saw or heard of Andrus Palmer. This much was ascertained the next morning. During the session of Messrs. Holcombe and Merle at the haunted house, a new snow had fallen to a depth of several inches upon the old. In this snow, Palmer's trail from his lodging in the village to the back door of the Eckhert house was conspicuous, but there it ended. From the front door, nothing led away but the tracks of the two men who swore he had preceded them. Parlour's disappearance was as complete as that of old Man Eckhert himself, whom, indeed, the editor of the local paper somewhat graphically accused of having reached out and pulled him in. Wow. Certainly looks as if it is the case, doesn't it? Old Man Eckhert goes missing. And then the three of them, Holcombe, Merle and Palmer, agreed to go on an investigation. Then Palmer doesn't turn up, so the other two sit and carry on with the vigil. And then they see Palmer come in through the back way, look frightened, and then run out the front door, but they can't find any tracks. What happened? Can you think what happened to him? I don't know what to think, do you? It's a mystery. It's an absolute mystery. Right. So we've had that one. And now it's time for me to continue and read to you episode 9 of I Made a Deal with an Angel by Zithero. Now, as you can tell, Sarah is telling this story. But as she's obviously telling the story, you can tell that she's telling it from a point of looking back as to what happened to her. Well, this is an additional bit that's been written in. So it seems that Sarah has been given an even bigger job to do. And a job has been, she's got to kill a priest by strangling him with a tail, using tail poison. She's got to seduce an angel. And that's what she's been told she has to do. But this is going to be sometime in the future. So I suggest we just keep on staying tuned so we can find out what happened. Because this is just the very start of her adventures. So where did we last leave Sarah? We had the bombshell that she was going to train with Phorcas, Asmodee's right-hand man, when it came to training his armies. Because Asmodee, as you know, is the Lord of Wrath. Sarah is going to be used as an experiment to see if succubus can be trained to fight alongside demons. But the first contest is going to be between herself and our old friend, Esmeralda, who is now a fully fledged demoness. Now that's come as a shock. So we'll have to take up the story now and see what happens next. Let's continue. Phorcas at this point is swinging his sword at me, and I'm still having issues parrying and avoiding his strikes. "Dodge!" he shouts. I, unfortunately, didn't. I'm laid flat on my back and grunt as my tail is pinched under me. Phorcas stands over me. "Why didn't you dodge?" Narrowing my eyes at him and grumble through gritted teeth. I felt like taking a break. Phorcas laughs, offering me his hand. As I take it, I ask, How the hell did you wind up here? You don't seem like the typical sociopathic angel. Forecast looks to Asmodai, who is busy eviscerating Ubiel again and feeding bits of him to Zaletia. He sheaths his sword. I'm afraid I was on the wrong end of history. I'll say, I agree. Forecast strikes me in the head swiftly with his training sword. It's blunted, but it still hurts. During the war, I had a choice, and I chose to try and save lives. I suppose I didn't realise that in the end. God's plans were far different. Save lives? I look at him incredulously. Forecast rests his sword on his shoulder. Humanity is not the first intelligent life form on Earth. Terror, as it is referred to in the grander scheme. So, like dinosaurs? Forecast looks to Zaletia. Where do you think she came from? I look at Zaletia. I don't know. I thought dragons were make-believe. Forecast shakes his head. Old, yes. A myth, no. God made many creatures like that on Terra at first. And when he made Lucifer, Lucifer requested his own experiment. So, on Venus, another civilization occurred. I looked up to the black blade of pride. Wait, so there was another entire planet of Satanists? Focus laughs at me. In a way, they just called him their god, and some prayed. Focus frowns. Some did not. And Lucifer punished them? I ask. Focus shook his head. No, he did not. Free will existed on Lucifer's version of life. It did not exist on his. Focus looks up. Needless to say, we discovered an interesting thing about prayer. Prayer? I ask. Yes, Focus begins. Gods and ethereal beings like them thrive on prayer. The more prayer they receive, the stronger they are, and the longer they last. Okay, I'm following. I rotate my shoulder at the time and it hurts like hell. So the fact is that prayer from someone who can choose not to pray is more powerful than a prayer from someone who has no other option but to pray. I take a moment, and Focus seems generous enough to give me the time to think it over. So, Lucifer grows in power? Focus nods. And then, well, he was informed his experiment was over, that his world would no longer become habitable, and as a result, heaven divided. Some felt the extreme reaction was just the Almighty being paranoid. Focus sighs, looking up to the blade of pride. I only joined his side to protect. Then, after the war was almost over, Lucifer was cast out and he fell. He fell to terror, destroying almost all life out of spite. Forecast looks to me. In the end, Lucifer destroyed far more than he preserved, and the Almighty started over on Terra, restoring it after the calamity. They don't teach that in school. Wait, when you say calamity, what do you mean? I ask. Focus thinks a moment, then says, well, he did most of the damage by landing from heaven. However, he did stalk about on the surface for a short while before he was finally bound by a prophet. That's a prophet I don't want to meet, I state. Focus chuckles. It's funny, because you might. Before I can ask anything else, Asmodai's voice booms across the training fields. Focus! Whore! You're done for the day. I snap my fingers, causing my armour and sword to return to their black ball state. I slide them into my cleavage, where they usually go, and head back towards Asmodai. He walks inside before I even manage to cross the training area. I frown as I eventually get inside, closing the door. Asmodai is nowhere to be found. Master? Silence. Asmodai? I wander around for a bit, eventually making my way to the bedroom, where I find him sitting on the edge of his bed. He's no longer wearing his armour and looks me over. In a few hours, you're going to face Esmeralda. I figured you could use some time to recover. I wrap my wings around myself, looking him up and down. Recover as in rest, or recover as in drink? Asmodai looks to me. Whichever you prefer. I walk over to the bed and slide up next to him, my hand moving over his chest. I'm utterly exhausted. Every part of my body hurts. His hand moves over my arm, where he feels a slight muscle. You've been benefiting from the training, it seems. I flex my arm, but then smile and pull out one of the little black balls, snapping it in my hand, the top portion of my armour wrapping round me. With a hard push, which was almost all of my strength, I managed to force him onto his back. Is that a turn-on for you, Asmodai? For me to be strong? Asmodai grins. I see the armour is amplifying your... I push my fingers to his mouth. Shh. This is my time to recover. Let me use you how I want. Asmodai just smiles and leans back as I kiss over his abs and chest. I finally make my way to his mouth and kiss him deeply, drinking in his essence. While I had sipped at him before when I grew tired, this was the first time I was intentionally drawing from him. It felt like drinking from a fire hose. I had to stop, shivering a bit, as I processed what I'd done, but despite myself I wanted more. Asmodai grins. Did that wet your palate? I grab both of his hands, pinning him down to the bed. Yes, I hiss, and kiss him again. I control the surge of energy better this time. My body aches, vanishing as I'm replenished. My strength feels like it's doubled as I squeeze Asmodai's wrists tighter. He's like a drug. I can't get enough of him, but I know too much will be terrible for me. I remember Esmeralda and finally break the kiss, shivering as I lay on top of him. I riled myself up a bit too much and tried to calm down. Are you all right? Asmodai asked me. I nod. Yes, just, I want more, but I'm afraid. Asmodai laughs and kisses me on the cheek. After you win, you and I can spend hours celebrating. My cheeks blush as he says this, or at least blush deeper. How long until I'm going to fight her? Asmodai chuckles. We don't have long. One for the road, then. I kiss him once more, with him kissing back with passion. Asmodai and I were on the balcony shortly after. I have my armour on and I'm feeling very nervous. Belial seemed to be late for some reason, much to Lucifer's agitation. When Belial shows up, he appears riding on a strange creature. Its fur is matted and foul, and it had furry but clawed feet. Its neck was lizard-like and long with a feline-like face on it. Huge leathery wings folded on either side of the creature. Belial dismounts and looks to Asmodai and grins. She's quite a fast little creature. I still feel I got the better deal of the two of us. Asmodai smiles a bit. Did you see the ancient black Rex dragon at the base of the blade? Belial's face falls. Yes. Asmodai grins wickedly. That one's mine. Belial looks to me, then to the balcony. Well, that's mine. A huge demon landed on the balcony of the spire. I assumed it was Esmeralda behind him. Her form was even more monstrous. Her hooves were even larger, yet they were caked in filth. Her arms were so large she was basically hunched over. They were muscled and burly, covered in fur. Her hands were massive and looked like they were large enough to grab my entire body. Her mouth was so full of sharp teeth that it appeared she couldn't close her lips around them. Thick drool sloughed off her mouth as she growled. Her eyes were still glowing purple, and she snorted in my general direction. Asmodai leans down to me as she marched in before Belial. Remember, victory is making it so your advisory is unable to attack you. I nod. I remember what Focus told me. Asmodai looks round and then whispers, "Good girl," into my ear. I shuddered. "Fashionably late, Belial. Trouble with your charge?" Lucifer asks. Belial bows. "My apologies, my lord. Esmeralda is a bit wild at the moment. Your power courses through her and continues to corrupt her form." Lucifer nods. Sorry, excuse me. To grab a drink. Lucifer nods. "I see." He looks to me and Asmodai. "Let us not forget the purpose of this battle. We are determining the usefulness of the succubi. Belial, should your charge win this fight, I will ensure that every succubus in hell drinks their fill of fallen essence, preparing for our invasion on Terra." He looks to Asmodai. "Asmodai, should your charge claim victory, then we will begin to train the succubi in combat and provide them armours, as you had suggested." I look at Asmodai. "Wait, if I lose, then?" Asmodai nods. Glancing at Esmeralda and shivering, I try to remember everything I learned from Focus. "It's only been a week." Asmodai smiles a sly grin. "Just trust your training." He glances at Esmeralda. "And do not forget what I said." He walks away from me. Belial looks towards me and scoffs. "A pretty sword and some armour, and suddenly you think she's a warrior, Asmodai?" Asmodai looks to Belial. "More respectable than to whore your way to power." "Enough!" Lucifer shouts. Belial steps away from the monstrous Esmeralda. Esmeralda growls at me, and through her teeth she spits out, "I'm going to rip you in half." I frown, imagining Mara and all the others transformed into hideous creatures like this. I grip my sword and take a readied stance. Lucifer looks to the two of us. "Begin." I wait, remembering what Focus has told me. Never be the first to strike. It's like showing the enemy what you're made of. Let them make that mistake, I heard in my head. Esmeralda roars and charges at me, moving to her hind legs as she builds up speed. She dips her head down to gore me. I wait until she's a few feet in front of me, and then jump to the side, using my wings to propel me. Focus's words in my head. "You're small. Your speed is your best asset. Your strength only makes your blows swift, your movements fast. Do not use long blows. You cannot fall her by force. You must have a victory of 1,000 cuts." Esmeralda slides past me, using her huge claws to slow her down. As she passes, I manage to get a good slice at her left leg. As Esmeralda starts at me again, her left leg slips. I dodge her again, jabbing into her right thigh. This doesn't work out too well as she flexes her thigh, and my sword gets stuck. Oh, shit. Esmeralda turns with a huge hand and goes to crush me. I manage to pull my sword out of her thigh just in time and hold it up horizontally. Her hand stopped by it. In order to keep myself from getting cut, I have the broadsword of the sword facing her palm. Esmeralda pushes harder against my sword, cackling as she goes. I'll crush you, tiny thing. Focus's voice is in my head again. Never forget, you're in hell. Honour is unheard of here. I press my thumb against the sword's jewel, my sword breaking into its chain form. Esmeralda falls forward, her hand hitting the ground as I step back. I pull the tip of the chain closer to myself and then release it, pulling hard on the handle. The chain rips through her wrist and removes her hand. Esmeralda roars in pain. She stumbles back and I take the moment to jump on her chest. I swing the bladed chain behind her head and pull her to face me. I kiss her on the lips as best I could, feeling her lips on mine, or mostly. I look her dead in the eyes and put so much effort into them that I could feel them burning in my sockets. Esmeralda, remember who you are. Remember why you sold your soul. Remember all of it and stop being such a ravenous beast. The last part might not have stuck as I felt my vision start to tunnel. I jump off her and blink, trying to clear my vision, but I definitely overextended my eyes. Esmeralda roars, and then I hear her groan, and then another roar. I turn around quickly to make sure she isn't trying to charge at me. Instead, her massive hands are grabbing a hold of her horns, and she wildly thrashes about. Stop, I can't. I narrow my eyes to see better, and then had a simple thought. In a mock English accent, I shout, Oi, love, looks like you got a spot of an headache. Esmeralda roars again. Her head slams down into the floor, her horns connecting and shaping. The two pairs twist together, yet start to shrink slightly. Her entire body begins to shrink. However, and I can't help but see that something's being pulled into her. She groans, breathing heavily. Can't hold. Yes, you can, I scream. I drop my sword and run up to her. I lift her up by the head and both of my hands, and I can see her irises behind the now dim glow of violet. Her teeth are still sharp, but they're smaller. I can see some humanity in her face. You can handle it. Believe in yourself. I'm knocked back by her tail. Her wings fold around herself as I hear more grunting and groaning. Finally, her wings open again. Though they're just as black and large, I notice her face looks like a woman, and her form is sleeker and more feminine. Her hooves are still massive, and fur still coats her legs and arms completely. The massive chest piece now falls round a trimmer waist. Her tail, while still huge, is now more fitting to her smaller form. She staggers, falling to one knee, heaving and struggling. Esmeralda? She holds up her arm with the missing hand. It's rapidly growing the hand back with a pointed finger. Bog trotter. She looks up, her iris is returning, the glow changing the colour of her eyes. Her skin changing from violet to the original pale, so that I was used to seeing. Never speak kings again. I smile. Okay. She slowly gets back to both hooves and then turns to Lucifer. I am unable to contain the greatness of your essence, my lord. Sarah defeated me because I could barely think. She winces, placing her hand on her forehead. Sarah's control over me is all that is keeping me together. Lucifer raises an eyebrow. Sarah used her enchantment on you? Aren't you a woman? Belial, explain. Lucifer looks to where Belial was, but he's nowhere to be found. Where is Belial? Esmeralda looks back to Lucifer. All succubus and incubus are bisexual, my lord. As for my master, I know not. Lucifer walks up to Esmeralda until the two are at eye level. He evaluates her. Seems you have your wits about you, you're far stronger. Esmeralda nods. I don't know how permanent it is, my lord. Asmodai appears to be looking around for Belial, looking rather confused. Sore loser? Esmeralda finally seems to be on her right sorts as she walks over to me. She still towers over me, a good 3 feet, even a foot over Asmodai. You're still a tiny thing. I smile. Welcome back. She smiles a bit as well, though her teeth are still razor sharp. I wasn't all gone, bog trotter. Esmeralda soon makes her way to the balcony. Asmodai approaches me. Well done, whore. Lucifer then shouts, Beelzebub! A black swarm of insects suddenly flies into the room. It swirls around in front of Lucifer and forms a man with black wings. My liege? His voice buzzes and clicks as if it's being made by insects. Asmodai leans down to whisper to me. That's Beelzebub, the avatar of envy, Lucifer's spy. Where is Belial? Lucifer asks. He's possessing someone, it seems, Beelzebub hisses. Lucifer narrows his eyes. Now? In the middle of... He suddenly closes his eyes, and when he opens them, they are swirling in anger. The Guardian Temple is opened by who? Lucifer waves his hand before him, and an image appears. He stares in confusion as there appears to be a construction crew or something inside some kind of temple. Who is doing this? Asmodai looks to Lucifer. My lord, did your daughter lay waste to every guardian angel in that temple? Yes, it was a glorious bloodbath. I enjoy re-watching it at times. He glares. There are no angels left. Belial had corrupted the last one. Where is he? Lucifer looks around. Lucifer waves his hand again. There are exactly 4. Lucifer snaps his finger and 4 images appear before him. One image is of a young man, black hair and blue eyes. He's wearing a trench coat of some sort and is standing in the temple in the original image. Come to think of it, that's the angel who's been chasing me all over the damn place. Figures. The second image is of an older woman, roughly in her 50s. She has huge white wings and is surrounded by 2 female guards. She wears all manner of finery, jewels, robes, and even a small crown. She has long red hair and even red eyes, though they look tired and drained. Third, there's an image of a young girl. She has red hair and blue eyes like the man. She's wearing a smaller crown, similar to the woman. She has similar robes, though hers are simpler. She's reading a book and looks to be in her teens. Lastly, and that image is the largest, is a young girl, maybe a year younger than the last girl. She's also got huge wings and is wielding a sword. She appears to be in training with a full-grown woman in full armour. However, She seems to be knocking the woman around with ease. She's got short black hair and bright blue eyes. Lucifer's eyes swirl. Rachel had children. The line of Enoch is unbroken. Lucifer eyes the fourth photo and grins. Well done, Ragnar. You've somehow found a way to have a child after all. With Rachel somehow. Intriguing. A descendant of Enoch and Lucifer. He grins. That'll be an interesting occurrence indeed. The first cherubim born outside of his desire. Lucifer's anger returns, however, as he looks to Beelzebub. Beelzebub, find Belial and find out what that boy is doing in the Guardian Temple. Now. Of course, my liege, but I have something else to report. Beelzebub bows and then looks to Asmodai and me. These two. My eyes go wide and a chill runs down my spine. Beelzebub smiles, his face made of insects that are constantly crawling. His voice echoes through my ears as my stomach drops. These two are lovers. So that's the end of episode 9. And look at what's been revealed. The one thing that they were terrified of having been revealed. Asmodai and Sarah had to keep it so secret that they were lovers. And now Beelzebub has told Lucifer. It makes you wonder now what's in store for Sarah and Asmodai. Well, we're going to have to wait until next week, aren't we? And see what happens in part 10. Have I made a deal with an angel? I'm really enjoying this. It's good, but I do tell you, I have read a lot of it and it gets so much better. So what did you think of tonight's stories? Did you like the first one from 1901? Where two men just disappear? What happened to them? We just don't know. And then we've got Sarah's exploit. She's beaten Esmeralda. She's brought her back from the brink of being totally lost into the demon world. I don't know. It's funny even thinking that you can have good where there's nothing but evil. But that's what Sarah did. She did some good for her friend. So she can't be totally evil, can she? And Asmodai and Sarah exchange love for each other in hell. It's not allowed to love. It's not known. So we'll just have to tune in next week and see what happens. Anyway, I want to thank you very, very much for being here with me. And thank you very much for watching. I really do hope that you all have a wonderful weekend ahead, no matter where you are in the world. But again, I want to reiterate my message. Please think outside of the box. I know we're all about self-isolating, but there are very vulnerable members in our communities everywhere. Please reach out to them. Please make sure they are okay. Because if you don't, and you've had the opportunity to help someone and you didn't take it, can you live with that on your conscience? Because I couldn't. I honestly could not. And I'm not capable of doing very much to help anybody, let alone myself. So these are bad times, but we can and we will get through it. We just have to stay strong. And like I said, like Jesus said, love one another as you would love yourself. So I will see you all again very, very soon. Please take care of yourselves. Please stay safe. I do worry about you. I don't just think out of sight, out of mind. I really don't. You all mean so much to me. I'm very, very worried about Kate, or Kate H. I haven't seen her in 3 weeks. I'm desperately worried about her. She hasn't come back to the Haven. Rhea Snakespeare did come back, but she's chosen not to come back to the Haven anymore. And I don't think we're ever going to find out the reason why. But that's up to her. It's on her. I am not carrying that burden on me. But our Kate, it's not like her to leave me with no words at all. So I'm worried. Anyway, take care everyone. Stay safe. And I love you all. Bye for now. Good night.